Hi, everyone, and welcome to another chapter of the Crit List. This time around, we're delving into the world of modern day witchcraft with Coven and Crucible from 13th Moon Games. We first met Stefan, one of the founders of 13th Moon Games, towards the end of last year when we invited him on the show to talk about this great system. Lo and behold, a month later, he'd be back to run Justin, Couch, Chris, and myself through character creation and an intro scenario. For us, it was a great chance to play Coven and Crucible, but it was also the first time that we'd be players all together in almost a decade. So check out Coven and Crucible at 13thmoongames.com and keep an eye out for the latest release, Unbound, because you might just see a couple of faces in there that you recognize. So, without further ado, please enjoy Coven and Crucible.
Welcome to the world of Coven and Crucible. This game is based in Chicago, but is a world of modern-day witchcraft. Magic is real. Magic is a skill, just like any other skill, like computer programming or welding or picking locks. Most people don't learn it, mainly because it's hard and it takes a lot of effort, and it's not permanent. When you weld something or when you open something, it stays that way. Magic doesn't do that. Magic is fleeting. This world based in Chicago, uh, where witches are not commonplace, but they are plentiful enough that you would pass one on the street more than likely. Um, in Chicago, there are presences of both the Crucible, which are high-end hotels. They are safe places for witches, neutral ground. They are not part of the coven. They are just like they say, neutral ground. They have a rule of hospitality: no violence shall take place on the grounds of a crucible. Uh, grave repercussions will happen if you do. So that is one of the rules and one of the reasons why the crucibles are so popular. They're in a lot of major cities around the world. There's one in New York, there's one in Chicago, and there's one in LA. In the States, there's there's one in Rome, there's one in Paris. So they're around. The Coven. The Coven is a corporation. It is a group, a consortium of all of the major witch houses. The 9 major witch houses uh, all have members, and there's a CEO and 3 members that are on the board of directors that are independent to give them a voice as well. They handle things like disputes between witches, um, and offer protections and things like that, legal representation, as long as you're a member of the coven. Not all witches are. And so there are lots of different reasons why witches choose to be a part or not to be part of the coven. In Chicago, there isn't a major coven presence, but there is a major presence of every single house of the main houses. You will see, and some minor houses as well. So that is the basis of where we start. Coven and Crucible, set in Chicago. It's kind of gritty. It's very much like modern day, except with a bit more dark, a bit more, I like to say, grit, more bellicosity, more, um, plenty of more defenestrations. So a couple of my favorite words there. So that's where we find ourselves. So let's talk about the concepts of what everyone has, if that's cool.
Yeah. Okay, so we realized a couple of days ago that for this game, the 4 of us, it is going to be the first time that we're actually playing together in 9 years, I think it was, when we first started playing tabletop role-playing games. And with that in mind, I am going to resurrect, in a way, my original character. So the concept is he's going to be quite debonair. He's going to be quite charming. He's going to be able to persuade people very well. He's going to be a confidence trickster, a con man of sorts. But he's also going to have a much darker, sort of chaotic twist to him.
Excellent. And what is the character's name?
I'm gonna go with Nash.
Nash.
Yeah.
Got it. All right, who's next?
I am also following in a tradition of sorts. So my character is a very pious man, has been for most of his adult life, and he actually went off to war. He came back from war with more experience in battle and hardening, but in the war he chose to be a medic. So he is a combat medic who has come back and has seen war, not necessarily of the other side, but of normal human means. And he has chosen to follow his faith devoutly to try and help as many people as he can with the powers that he has.
Excellent. Do you have a name?
His name is Tyke.
Tyke. Excellent. Who's next?
So
Chris.
yeah, this is following the same thread. Rehashing oldies but goldies. My character is sort of a wild man. Spends a lot of time sort of hunting or kind of protecting sort of normal world from the more nature-based spirits and things regarding witchcraft and those creatures, sort of keeping the boundaries between sort of cityscapes and the urban life that is ever encroaching onto nature, and trying to make sure that nature doesn't fight back as hard as it could, and try and preserve preserve life in all its forms, as well as sort of keeping the balance between one side taking over the other. So he will protect the people from the urban cities, from the forces that and the creatures that come out of nature, but at the same time is very much adamant that the urban cities have a boundary and they shouldn't encroach onto the natural world.
Awesome. That leaves Justin.
Well, I feel like I've kind of been roped into a corner now. So yeah, I guess I should probably rehash my character as well. So he's quite a dexterous guy. He believes that quick hands make for quick exits. And yeah, he's all about making some quick coin. Not always in a entirely official manner.
Gotcha.
And
All right.
yeah, tweaking the name a little bit to be Quinn.
Quinn.
With
I
two
didn't.
N's.
Chris, I didn't ask. Chris, I did ask.
Most people know him as Boomy.
Boomy. My Midwestern accent. All nasal. There we go. All right. So we've got Nash, social confidence man type person. We've got Tyke, the if it's okay, I can say John Watson, very much, but very religious. We have Boomy, I'd say survivalist, hunter, protector, familiar with both urban and rural areas. And then we've got Quinn, looking to make a quick buck. Excellent. This is a great crew. I love it. All right. Awesome. Good deal. So let's talk about character creation. Everybody have their sheet?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So how it works, and we're going to do kind of an expedited thing because there are a lot of traits, and there can be character creation can be as quick or as in depth as you want it. And usually, what I do when I run games is if I'm running a one shot, it'll be a quick expedited thing. If I'm running, and then if they like it, then we can flesh out things aspects like familiars. If you'll notice on the character sheet in the Google aspect, there's like little tabs for familiars and servitors and things like that. We won't worry about that so much. We'll just take it if those are the things that you want. We will take it for they have certain stats, and be able to roll for them, things like that. But if you want to continue on, then we can flesh that stuff out. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at, obviously you have all the basic stuff. Don't worry about house or pentacles or armor or anything right now. Just the descriptors, name, all that stuff. The 4 stats, the 4 attributes. And I should probably go into the basics of how mechanics work before we go, so that way you know what the stats do. Whenever you roll and you want to succeed on a task, I'm going to say, all right, give me and I'm going to give you a formula. And that formula is going to be an attribute plus a skill plus a sub-skill, and then plus any modifiers, right? So if somebody wants to notice something, I'm going to say, if you're looking for something, I'm going to say, all right, give me a will plus strategic plus awareness or investigation roll. And so you're going to take all 3 of those numbers, add them up, and that's your target number. And you have to roll under that target number on 2d12. There are traits. Traits we handle last because they're the most complicated. But each trait has certain things that it can do that will help with the formula. So for instance, if you have acute senses, that's going to affect everything around awareness or anything around, if you're with sight or hearing or smell or sound. If you have danger sense, that may not add anything to it, but it will. Well, actually, it does. It adds to initiative, but we'll get there. But it means you can't be surprised. Things like that. Yeah, there's a character sheet. Perfect. Thank you. So you can see there. So everything is formula based, and it can get a bit crunchy and it can get a bit confusing. As you can see, there's traits, and then those are the skills. There's 63 sub skills, right? There's a lot of sub skills. That scares people, and I understand that. But again, people look at that and go, I can't spend all my points or my levels there. I can't, because I only don't have that many. And that's okay. You're not supposed to. You're a specialist. You're supposed to work with a team. Every team has their specialist. You have, the con man, the grifter. You have the thief. You have the hitter. You have the hacker. You have all those things. So don't worry about. You want to specialize as much as possible because that means you're going to succeed more often than not. And generally, that is rewarding. So that said, let's start with attributes. You have the 4 attributes: will, body, agility, and magic. They are put that way because I like acronyms and I like to say wabam. So wabam. Will, body, agility, and magic. So everyone starts with 3 levels in each attribute. That's the average. So an average person you meet on the street is going to have 3 in all those attributes. As a character, as a player character, you get 7 levels to apply to divvied up among those 4 attributes. Now, that said, the cap is 7 for attributes. And if you find that you want to kind of play off a deficiency in one, be a little bit below average, you can reduce one attribute by 1 level to make it a 2, and then add that level to another attribute. So will is essentially everything mental acuity. You got your memory. It's revolved everything around memory, anything around speaking, everything around noticing things, perception, all that stuff. That's your will. Body is exactly what it sounds like. That is, that's your body. It's what your health is based off. It's a lot of what your physical stuff is based off of. Agility, just like it sounds. Everything that is dexterity based is agility. And then, of course, magic. That is how potent you are with magic. Now, that said, it is only 1/3 of that formula. So keep that in mind when you're deciding where to go. Specialists will likely have a 7 in their primary attribute, either a 6 or 7 in the secondary attribute. Being witches, generally magic is going to be relatively high. It can be a 6 or a 7. Doesn't have to be. Does not have to be. Depending on what you want to do. Before I get too farther, before we start, you can probably already start devoting those levels. Combat is based on the highest of those 2 attributes. So if you're going to be, all of your combat rolls are based off of that. So somebody with an agility of 7 and a body of 2 is going to be just as effective in combat as somebody with a body of 7 and an agility of 2, because one's using agility, one's using body. So that's going to be kind of the there's no I want to have a high body and a high agility. There's not, unless you want to have a high health and be super acrobatic. Then I can see you could do that. But just to keep that in mind. Any questions so far?
No.
Okay, guys, got them divvied up.
Yep.
Okay.
So start at 3,
Excellent.
and then add 7 to each, and then you can take away and add to others. Yes.
Right. You can have up to 7 levels to divvy up among those 4 attributes.
Cool.
With none of them being higher than 7.
Cool.
So it's possible then to have like a 7, 2, 3, 7, or a 7, 3, 3, 6.
Close. You nearly got mine.
Did I?
Yeah, I got 7, 2, 4, 6.
Okay. There you go. That works. Awesome.
I've got 2 7s, a 3 and a 2.
Perfect. Excellent. I will say that's awesome. If you have a magic of 2, you cannot cast magic.
That's fine. I don't plan to.
Okay. Excellent. Wonderful. I love it. Awesome.
Yeah, come play a witch game where we all kind of the world revolves around magic, and I don't want to play magic.
We have
magic stuff.
You absolutely can. We have a character like that in the playtest that has been playing for a year that is not a witch. Oh, all right. So there we go. Next, we're going to go down to skills. All right. There are 9 skills. Each skill starts off at 4. All right. And you have 13 levels to divvy up amongst those skills, just like you did the attributes. No skill can be higher than 13. So you're going to see really quickly that you're going to only have 2 or 3 that are going to be 8 or higher. Where you want to focus. So, for instance, those of you like, well, for example, let's take let's take Quinn, for example. Quinn is not a witch. That's going to make it easy. Not going to devote any levels to magical, which is totally cool. But obviously, things like underworld and athletics will be very, very important to Quinn.
Yes.
Nash being a confidence man, underworld and social will be very important. But also, if they want to do anything magical will be important. So they may have like 8, and a 9 in those 3, or some other derivation. For Tyke, who spent time both in combat and as a healer, will probably want martial, technical, and magical as your focus on your skills. And Boomy, technical obviously will be a big part of that, and probably martial as well. So those are. But if you have questions about what those involve, I want to make a point because we're going to get to sub skills in a moment. So sub skills are each one of those things underneath the skills. Just because a sub skill is in a category of a skill doesn't mean that it's restricted to that category. I may call for a will or a roll that it says will plus strategic plus traps, or a will plus social plus deceit. And I'm willing to accept. That's one of the things, is I'm willing to accept if a player wants their character to do a thing, and I say, how about this? The player can say, could I do this instead? And then give me a formula. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then, because there's so many combinations, I want to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to really highlight their character. That's what this game is designed to do. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
All right. So everybody divvied up their levels already? Or if you have questions about what it
13.
means.
Yep. Just double checking, but yeah, I've got 13.
Okay.
Divvied out.
Oh, 13, yeah.
Okay. Everybody good?
No.
Okay.
So, got a new keyboard, and I sometimes miss buttons.
That's quite no. I get you. I get you. That's why I don't text, man. These thumbs
so
are not made for
little.
texting. Oh my gosh, that really is.
It's tiny.
No way. Nah, not for me. These hands don't work well on that stuff. Like I used to make chainmail and I can't anymore. Just no.
Mm.
Yeah, I've got 13 points. I've gone very technical, martial, and magical.
Perfect. Excellent.
Nice. Yeah, I've got social and underworld, but there's also like and magical. Obviously, they were the basic main ones. But I've
Okay.
also kind of gone a bit more academic and strategic as well.
Perfect.
I think he is a bit of a strategist, and I think
I like it.
a confidence trickster would kind of need to be.
Yeah, that's the thing is people are like, there's so many things my character needs to be able to do. Well, you can, and you will. You're just better at some other things.
Yeah,
And again, these are starting characters. They're they'll the comparing them like if you get 13 experience points per month, and then times 10 months, that's 130 experience points, and each one is it's super easy how to increase. It's everything. It's the new level times 2 in XP. That's it for everything.
yeah,
So yeah. All right. Are we all good?
Yeah.
Excellent.
yeah.
All right. This is the most mathematical part. You have 63 levels. 63 levels to divide amongst this 63 sub skills. Now, that said, keep in mind you do not have to spend all 63 of those levels because you might want to hang a couple back for some traits. Because traits you get 13 at character creation, but you may want more. And so I often say, all right, well, you can pick. I would say pick between 5 and 7 sub skills that you really want to focus on, and then hold those back, and then we'll talk about traits, and then we can go back and mix and match just to flesh things out. Because traits they can make or break they come in clutch, particular instance. So that said, let me talk about how combat works. Combat and how levels of success and what that means. Sub skills are what tells you how well you succeed. Right? Sub skills range from 0 to 7. You do not start with any levels in sub skills. You have those 63 levels to divide up between all 63 of them, going from 1 to 7. Um, so basically, those levels of success, that means that's how much damage you do. That's how well you succeed. That sets the difficulty rating for other people to get one past you. That's what levels of success mean, and that's what is it's the basis for that is the level of the sub skill. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so for instance, if I had a 7 in dodge, that means my dodge is going to be I'm pretty good at dodging. It's going to be pretty hard for people to hit me. Um, and then traits later on, you can purchase traits that will increase that. I also wanted to say too, I should have mentioned this when we were divvying up skills. It's very important with martial, magical, and athletics. If your skill is 8 or higher, you generally get to um, you get an enhanced effect. So with in as you can see on the cheat sheet, you get um, one action. You can get a martial action or a magical action. If your martial or magical skill is 8 or higher, whenever you take a martial action, you get 2. If your magical is 8 or higher, whenever you take a magical action, you get 2. If your athletics is 8 or higher, your sprint, instead of being twice your movement, is or your sprint when you take a sprint action, instead of being adding your movement again, it's adding twice your movement. That's what those mean. So if that means you have to rearrange some levels, that's a totally cool. That's more important for the people who want to engage in combat or who want to engage in magical combat. It also dictates how many reactions you can get because you're just skilled at those things. So you're able to defend yourself against those things quicker. All right. Any questions about that?
Sorry, what was the maximum that you could put in a sub skill?
That's a very good question. 7.
Yep.
All right. So going through, and now, like I said, I would say, spend between 5 and 7. Like you can put, if you want to have a familiar, If you want your character to have a familiar, which yes, of course. Familiars are tremendous for witches. Familiars really add to they add to the magical effect of their spells and things whenever they're within line of sight. Um, and as long as they're not taking their own actions, um, any spell a witch casts on themselves is automatically added to the familiar as long as they're within line of sight. So in order to get a familiar, though, you're going to have at least one level of animal handling.
Oh, hell yeah, it's
Um,
fine.
And yeah,
I
I
wonder-
figured.
I wonder what you're going to call your familiar.
It's a mystery.
I'm guessing that it's not a mystery.
No, so kind of character that this guy is based off used to be a ranger, so he had an animal
Gotcha.
companion.
Okay, keeping in mind, that you're walking around downtown Chicago with an animal. There are still health regulations in place, although they generally are more accepting because of familiars. So a bear is going to have to wait outside, and a bear might get frowned upon by the local police. Same thing with I have the game I ran last night. Two of the people have hellhounds for familiars. One of them has a demon dragon. So yeah, it's one of the characters is a hellhound breeder. It's amazing. So anyway, so yeah, familiars, it can be anything, any animal. They can be supernatural creatures, but they require traits. And I'm going to say, for the purpose of this, let's just keep it to natural animals, just to make it a lot more smooth, if that's cool. But it can be anything. We had sloth, we had flying squirrel, we had dogs, cats, giant snails, things like that.
Nice.
Hermit crabs, turtle, snapping turtle. So that's where for familiars, that's something you're going to need to have at least one level. If you're going to want servitors, servitors are essentially they are an extension of the witch's will. They are entities that are created by the witch to basically help. They can't help magically, but they can help with everything else. Physically, they can help you. You can have a couple servitors that are hackers that will just sit on the computer all day and help you, assist you with hacking. You can have people that they'll help you with, anything. They can assist with any of the sub skills except for magical. If you want servitors, you're going to have to. There's going to require a level of summoning, level of occult, and level of lore. Those are the prerequisites for those. That said, I don't know if anybody's going to have that. We can, if you've already divvied up some of your sub skills, I would like to go through and see how many did everybody pick between 5 and 7 that they wanted max, or did they divvy up their levels to their content?
Yeah, I've divvied them up. I forgot
Okay.
about 7 being the max, so that's given me a couple more spare.
Okay.
I have done all of mine, and I've spared nothing for anything else.
Nothing for traits. You spent all
4
60
skill points left.
4
I've
skill
been
levels. Okay.
No, I've got 8 left. I did well. I got 8 left.
Okay. All right. Excellent. So now we get to traits. Traits are pretty important. They help define what the character has experienced and who they really are. There are, and if you've seen the Unbound, there are hundreds, over 100 traits in there. And again, it's not yet published. That's just the basic stuff. So it's still still wrapping it up. But but for traits for anybody that's going to do anything socially, analytic mind is clutch. Analytic mind at level 3. Traits, you get 13 levels at character creation, and then levels are spent just like for sub skills. You can spend levels, those levels left over, a 1-for-1 basis. Since nobody's going to be doing anything that involves any kind of planar traits or anything, then everything's a 1-for-1. You have the cap is generally it's just dictated by the trait. They're either 1 to 3 or a certain level somewhere between 1 and 3. Traits don't go higher than level 3. For each level of a trait, normally they apply a bonus to your target number for involving certain things they mentioned within a formula, like analytic mind. It adds its level as a positive modifier to a target number for anything involving the will attribute. So any formula that has will in it, you get to add analytic mind to it. At level 3, you get to add 1 to the level of success. So that means traits can help you get better at what you're already good at. Make sense?
Yep.
Awesome.
So-
All right. So for social, you're going to want, obviously, you're going to want analytic mind. That's going to help all of your social skills, all of your conning skills, things like that. For martial, you're going to want to decide if you want to take either, if you're going to be going a body route or agility route. And you're going to want to decide if you want to take any kind of traits that will assist with that. Things like, we'll talk about specialized training in a minute. Specialized training, that's covers a skill. So if you take, say, specialized training in martial, that means anything that has the martial skill in the formula, you get to add its bonus to. At level 3, you get to add 1 to the level of success. What did Tyke go through? Is it agility or is it body or is it kind of both?
He went more body.
Okay, cool. There are some traits there, like if I don't know how big Tyke is. If Tyke's a big dude, huge size is beneficial. Also some drawbacks. There's things like fearless that adds to martial, but also then subtracts from awareness because you don't pay much attention because you're just charging it. And then things like agility based, things that are kind of underworldy type. Criminal mind is a very, very good one. That's going to help everything. Yeah, you saw that. All right. And then as far as going through, like for Boomy, things like specialized training in technical. Also, there's also concept traits. Every one of these sub skills, except for magical and martial, every one of the sub skills that are under all of these skills, all have concept traits. And that basically means you are exceptionally good at one of those things. So, being exceptionally good at survival, being exceptionally good at animal handling, things like that. Those are traits that are pretty important to you. Those concept traits, and those are in the Unbound document player resource. Let me pull up the page. I can give you a page number even. Oops.
Yeah, I reshuffled some skills around to get criminal mind at level 3.
I was gonna guess because you start with 13 levels in traits, and so you've already spent those, and then you rearrange. Yeah. Oh, gotcha. Okay. Specialized training is very, very good. Sub-skill mastery is very, very good. If you're going to be in combat, if you plan on being in combat, you have to decide whether or not you want to be a blocker or a dodger. Combat dodging makes it harder for you to be hit. Blocking means that doesn't make you any harder to be hit. It just means you're not going to take as much damage from that hit. That said, if you're planning on being in combat at all, dodgy is a phenomenal trait to take. It gives you 1 free dodge that doesn't take a reaction, and it's an auto dodge, so you automatically get to avoid 1 attack. And then if your martial is 8 or higher, you get to dodge 2 more times or block 2 more times in that round, I should say. All right, and then so the concept traits, they all start on page 40 in the Unbound, and they go through. And you can see each one is basically assigned to a sub-skill.
Okay.
So that's the basics for traits. Some other key traits like lucky also comes in very, very handy. Taking the lucky trait for each level of the trait, each scene, you get to re-roll, or you get to add. You can roll a second time and choose the result you take. So if you know that you have something that's really, really hard to accomplish, and you fail the first roll, you can say I'm lucky, and you can re-roll again, and then you can try to succeed. Or in certain cases, you may not want to get a critical success. So you can roll lucky again to avoid that. It's rare, but it happens, particularly in planar traveling. But that's not going to be an issue here. So um, I should tell you what a critical success is. Based on your target number, if your target number is a 13 or less, rolling a 13, and it's a modified target number after everything is taken into consideration, difficulty ratings and everything. If you roll a 13 and your target number is 13 or less, that is a critical success. If your target number is 12 or less and you roll a 13, that is a critical failure. Generally, critical successes mean you get to double your LOS. So if you're attacking, that's a huge critical hit. Instead of doing, say, 10 levels of damage, you're doing 20. That's huge. If you fail, well, something bad happens, and I get to dictate what that is. If you're trying to heal somebody and you critically fail, generally they're going to get hurt. Stuff like that.
So I never roll for heals, guys. That's what I'm hearing.
So if you want to heal, like, and this is largely for Tyke, if you want to heal, it's going to be like if you want to just tend to wounds or see how bad somebody's doing, that's going to be like a will plus technical plus first aid. If you want to magically heal somebody, that's going to be magic plus magical plus first aid, right? So, and then your levels of first aid will tell you how many levels you heal. On top of that, you get to increase your levels of success if you take traits like medic or specialized training in first aid mastery, which has a prerequisite of specialized training technical. So, and some of these traits have prerequisites, so we got to pay attention to that. How are we doing on traits? You guys kind of glance through. You have any questions on? There's a lot of them.
Currently spent 11.
Okay.
Anybody
take common sense?
No,
hey!
but I might do.
I was flicking through the core book and reading it, and I saw that and kind of went, definitely taking that, no matter what I play. Just the ability to kind of go, is this actually feasible? Should I be doing this?
Just to tell you, Stefan.
Sure.
I've got 5 traits currently.
Okay.
I've got healthy, level 3.
Perfect.
Sturdy, level 3.
Perfect.
Strong will, level 1, which doesn't give me any plus to my level of success at the moment, right?
Correct.
And then I've got fearless.
Okay.
Level 3 gives me plus 1.
Yep.
And specialized training, if I sit that into martial as a whole, or obviously you said about the first aid, can I do it as a sub skill, or do I have to specialize as a main skill?
No, the specialized training is in the skill itself, and then that is the prerequisite for the sub skill mastery. So if you took specialized training in martial, that means all of your martial skills have that bonus, and then so whenever you roll any of the martial skills, and then as the prerequisite to take like say, ranged mastery or whatever. If you want it in first aid, you would have to take specialized training in technical.
Cool.
Right, and then
trade that.
And you could take specialized training in all of the skills if you want, and then that paves the way for you to have mastery in one of them or two.
And for every skill point we haven't spent, can we then spend that on traits?
Yes,
absolutely, 1-for-1 basis.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah, because I've got 3 traits up to level 3 after juggling stuff around. I've got criminal mind 3 because
good.
I mean,
of course.
Yeah. Acute senses, because the last thing you want is to be surprised when you're trying to steal something.
Right.
And I've got an unassuming appearance, so it's harder for people to find me.
Nice. Perfect.
Can I just clarify as well? We get 13 points to put into traits, and then we can put in whatever left from skills.
Correct. You have 13 levels to put into traits, and then you have whatever levels you haven't spent for sub skills.
Cool. I think I've got 13 plus my 4 skill points. I think I'm good.
Yeah, I just need to assign my last few skill points.
Okay.
So I've now taken both specialized training in technical and martial.
Excellent.
So that'd be 21 total. So I think I'm missing 3, 4, 5, 8, 11, 13, 16, 18. So I'm missing 3. I need to pump into something. Okay, there we go. That's it. I'm done.
Excellent. All right. So now that we have all of those things spent, we get to do our derived stats. Those are the things like, what's my initiative? What does that mean? What's my martial block? What's my dodge? Did anybody take dodging by chance?
I did.
Oh, perfect. Smart move. All right. That's good. And then, so let's talk about initiative. Your initiative modifier. What you do, how you roll initiative is to see who goes first. Your initiative is your derived stat is your will plus your agility. And then that you total those two things up. And did anybody take danger sense?
Yes, I did.
Excellent. You get to add your level of danger sense to that initiative.
Ooh, nice.
So, and then that's what you do is you roll a 1d12 and add that to it, and that's how we figure out initiative.
Cool.
All right. And going first isn't always the best. Just saying. So,
I mean, this guy's initiative is better than Tichondrius's one was ever was.
excellent. All right, martial block. Your martial block is your highest martial, the level of your highest martial subskill. Okay, and then you're going to add 1 for every trait that affects that martial subskill, a formula with that martial subskill. So body plus martial plus whatever. So if you have specialized training in martial, that's going to add 1 to that stat. If you have, you know, whatever, some of them, one of the subskill masteries, that's going to add 1 if you have it level 3. Fearless will also add 1 to the block. All right. So what block means is that's going to generate that number. If you look on the handy dandy cheat sheet, that will generate a level of difficulty. That level of difficulty will then be applied to all damage incoming that you block, right? Also, if you're going to end up using a weapon, that will also affect that block stat. So if you're going to use a small weapon, it's going to add 1 to that. A medium weapon like a billy club or something like that, or a bottle, that's going to add 2. And something that's large is going to add 3. So if you're going to be walking around with like a stop sign, there you go. Cool. Right? Or a garbage can lid, something like that. Something that's going to be big and hefty. That also adds to damage as well. So anyway, so that's where you're at for a martial block. So what that translates to, so if you have like sit between 7 and 11 for a martial block, that means that that generates a hard level of difficulty, which means any damage that is done to you that you block is reduced by half. Right? All right. And then let's go to dodge. Dodge is the same thing. It's your level of, did anyone take levels of dodge as a subskill?
Oh wait, no.
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
I did as well, actually. Yeah.
Oh, excellent. So that your dodge is going to be the level of your subskill plus any other traits that affect it.
Because dodgy doesn't.
Dodgy does
affect
not.
it. Yeah.
No, dodgy does not affect the number. It just gives you a free one, which is ultimately better.
Yeah.
But anything like specialized training martial will add 1. Fearless will add 1, which is weird, but it works. And dodge mastery will do that as well. All right, things like that. And then magic block. Magic block. Did anyone here take warding or hexing as a magical subskill? Excellent. Warding?
Warding, yeah.
Did you take warding? Yeah, okay. And you took, Chris, what did you take?
Warding
as well? Okay.
Yeah.
So your magical block is equal to your warding subskill or hexing, because you can either throw up a quick magic shield or you can blast something out of the air with hexing. Warding or for magical block is going to be your levels of subskill for warding. Plus, if you have specialized training in magical, that will add 1 at level 3. Your familiar, the familiar adds 3 because it's a third level trait. Your familiar will add 3 to both target number and level of success for all magical things. So it's obviously a very powerful trait. That means that if you have a warding of 7, specialized training in magical, and then a familiar, that's going to be an 11 for your magical block. Right? If your magical skill is 8 or higher, you get to 2 actions instead of 1. So that means you get 2 reactions. You can block 2 things. Okay.
If we haven't
Everybody-
taken hexing or warding, we're screwed.
Well,
I,
that only magically. Only magically. You can
Alright.
block. You can block attacks, magical attacks with that you can see. That's the thing with martial weapons. Absolutely cool. You can dodge them as long as you can see them.
I did
Make
take
sense?
3 levels of magical resistance.
Excellent. We'll get to that. That's going to be the drive stat too. All right.
Brilliant.
Back to the next column. Speed and sprint. All right. So your speed, which is just your normal move, everybody gets to move for free in a round. It equals your body plus your agility plus your athletic skill times 2.
So body plus agility.
6, 11, so 22.
Okay, so that's your speed, and then the second part of that is your sprint. All right, if your athletics is 7 or less, your sprint is going to be twice their speed. If your athletics is 8 or higher, it's going to be 3 times your speed.
Okay.
Got that? All right. Health. This is important. This is your, it's going to be your body times 2 plus 13. Oh, I forgot to ask. Did anybody take Fleet of Foot?
I did, I think. 1 second.
Okay.
Let me just double check. Oh, no, I didn't. I was looking at it
Okay.
and I never did.
Okay. Fleet of Foot adds to your speed. Basically, every level adds 5 feet to your speed, which will affect both speed and sprint, but nobody took it. It's cool. All right. Health is body times 2 plus 13. And if you have the healthy trait, then you get to add a level of healthy to your health.
Mm.
All right. Everybody good there?
Yep.
Awesome.
Tanky boy.
Then
Tanky
hits
boy.
before death. What's that?
I'm a tanky boy.
Excellent. That's important. Hits before death. That equals your body. If you've taken the sturdy trait, that adds 1 to that. How it works, hits before death. If you get knocked to 0 health, you are unconscious. Doesn't matter how much takes you over, there's no negative levels of health. Even if you have only 1 level of health, you get hit for 12, you're at 0, you're unconscious. Every hit, not damage, every hit after that takes away 1 from your hits before death. So if somebody has 8 hits before death, that means I have to shoot them in the head 8 more times before they're dead.
Double tap doesn't exist in this world.
Doesn't a tap? Yeah, double tap is. I mean, people. Yeah.
Pretty much. I only got 3.
Well,
sorry.
there you go.
What was the hit? What was the hit before death again?
Hits before death is equal to your body attribute.
Cool.
And if you have sturdy, that adds 1 to that. So that just means just because you're at 0 and you've taken a bunch of hits doesn't mean you're still going to survive. If you're there, exposed to the elements, nobody's coming for you, you're going to eventually bleed out. But it also means that if you are, it doesn't matter what your hits below death are, or how many hits you've taken after 0. You can, any kind of magical healing or any kind of mundane healing even will bring you to 1. So, or bring you whatever. Like if somebody does a magical heal and heals you for 7, you're at 7. You're not at 1 or anything.
Yeah.
All right. So, and then magic resistance. This one I get a lot of flack for. Magic resistance is the levels of success of the endurance subskill. Did anyone take endurance?
Did I take endurance? I don't believe I did. Nope.
All right. So
Endurance subskill, that's me.
Hey, all right. So that is your magic resistance is equal to the levels of your endurance subskill plus. If you have strong will at level 3, that adds 1 to it. If you have magic resistance 3, that adds 1 to it.
Yay,
If
I
you
get
have a
1.
familiar, yay! If you have a familiar, that adds the level of the familiar to it, because it's a magic plus magical plus endurance formula. So So that means that's your magic resistance. What that applies to is that is how hard it is for magic to affect you. It presents just like the dodge or the block. It presents a level of difficulty that other people that will create a DR for someone to try to affect you with magic. So if you have, yes.
All right, I just
You have
want to
one.
know: should we just go ahead and make Justin a new character now to save us having to do it
Mhm.
in about 10 minutes time?
Heck, I'm fast.
Yeah, if
Fast as fuck, boy.
if you if
He's
you
up a tree.
it depends. It depends. If you start provoking people, then maybe. Yeah,
That's
it
my
depends.
job.
Justin. That's just Justin.
Excellent. All right. So so that's that. Everybody got their derived stats. All right.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So now
Sorry, can we quickly just
Sure.
dodge a magic block again? I a lot of things were coming out, and my brain just kind of went. No.
It's quite all right. Thank you for letting me know. So magic block and dodge. Dodge is equal to your dodge subskill plus any kind of traits that'll add to it, like specialized training, martial, or fearless, things that add to those. What that does is that makes it harder to hit you. It applies
Yeah.
a difficulty rating based on what your level of what level of difficulty presents, based on the chart in the cheat sheet, how hard it is to hit you. So that basically they get to apply that penalty to their attack roll as opposed to the damage they do.
Okay.
Magical block is just like martial block, except for magic. You use magic to block it. So if you have, you have a 10 magical block, that means you're using magic to block an incoming attack instead of like just physically blocking it. And then it reduces damage just the same.
A magic block is just it's either hexing or warding, correct?
Correct. You're either just throwing up a quick magical shield for that attack, or you're blasting that attack out of the air. Because you can use a gun if you're a ranged fight, like just a ranged combatant, and people are shooting at you. You can use that to block, which is pretty cool. We had a character do that in the playtest. Just shoot bullets out of the air. It was amazing. It's wild. John Wick style. Very John Wick style. All right. So any other questions? Everybody got those?
Yep.
Pretty good.
Awesome. Did anybody take wealth or independent income?
No.
Okay, that's totally cool. You didn't have to. All right. So then let's everybody make the first roll of the game, 2d12, and that's going to tell you how many pentacles you have. Pentacles are the witch currency.
All right.
All the dice can.
11.
All right, so you have 11 pentacles.
14.
22.
22. Nice. You're loaded. Uh-oh, Justin. 10. That's all right. That's not bad.
I still rolled lower than everyone else in true me fashion.
I did say you have to roll low. I apologize.
We
The
wouldn't
two
have
parts
it any other way.
Right? The two parts that you have to roll high in is initiative, or you want to maybe is roll initiative and pentacles. All right. So if you wish, I generally allow characters when I start to have some type of magic thing that helps them. You can have a jacket that is warded against, that is basically an enchanted jacket that gives you heavy armor or things like something like that. If you want a weapon that say gives you a bonus to your attacks, then you can have that or something like that. That's if you don't want something like that, it's absolutely cool. We can work with that really quick. I would say obviously you're going to want the tanky, the both Boomy and Tyke to have some kind of magical heavy armor, which I'm absolutely, that can be a magic tattoo. It can be a jacket. It can be whatever. So you guys can think about that. I would say something for something for Quinn would be something called a burglar's friend, where it would add basically give you access to the additional criminal mind trait, but a magical version of it. You can, if you have a magic item that has a trait imbued in it, it'll stack with a mundane version of the trait, which is kind of cool. But you can't double stack magical things. So you can't have an item with like 3 versions of Criminal Mind and get benefit from all 3 of those.
Yeah.
You cannot take the same trait twice, obviously, unless it's for something else.
So
mundane.
theoretically, could I like come up with something that would give me a bonus to quick wit, for example?
For anything, yeah, you could take an item that gives you quick wit again. Quick wit 3.
I mean, but I've already got 3 in quick wit. Would that then pump it to 4 with the magical item?
No, it would basically be, it's a magical version of the same trait, so you get to apply the bonus again. So if you have
So it would double up.
Yeah, double up, right? So essentially, you'd have a +6 to those rolls and +2 to the LOS of those rolls. Yeah. So or like in something that could, like a weapon that would give you a specialized training martial, that would increase the target number by 3 and LOS by 1. Or you could consider it a heavy, like you could have a knife that's considered a heavy weapon, enchanted to be a heavy weapon, so it just hits harder. Things like that. So everybody got the idea of what they want, item-wise?
Yeah.
Just quickly, can you potentially, say with the items, put some have it so it helps you in a skill rather than a trait?
Absolutely. Well, absolutely, because it is a trait, but it's a well, yeah, you could have it just be a positive modifier to a subskill. So
okay,
yeah, so you could say first
something gives you an advantage to like stealth or something.
Yeah, so it could give like a +3 to your stealth target number, or it could just grant you the sneaky trait, which gives you a +3 to your target number and +1 to LOS. So you could do that. All right, everybody got an idea for the item?
Yes, I've gone with a magical coin.
Okay, that does what?
Quick wit. So I'm going to double up on that. So that gives me persuasion and to resist interrogation.
Excellent. So you have a +6 to your persuasion. Wonderful. To your target number. All right, and +2 to your LOS for that. All right. Everybody got it? Everybody set?
Yeah.
Yeah.
One last thing, how armor works in combat. Armor is applied last. So whether you dodge or you block, once that combat action is resolved and damage is then reduced either by the block or however, or by wards, then you apply armor at the end of it. So if your block reduces a damage to 2, and then you have heavy armor 3, that means you take no damage. If your block reduces a damage to 0, which is really hard to do because it's a fraction, but if things that you have reduce the damage to 0, it's always going to do 1 level of damage, and then armor is applied. Okay, so if you reduced it down to 1, or somehow maybe less than 1 because everything is rounded down, then it's going to be 0. But then, or it's going to still be 1, but then armor will apply for 0. Magic. Any spell you cast lasts a number of minutes equal to your levels of success. It is possible to cast a ward, either in combat or just before combat. You could cast a ward that will last a number of minutes equal to your levels of success. And that is, you have to state the intention of what it is you want to do. So let's say I have a ward that I want to protect myself from being hit. That's going to act as a dodge. And whatever your levels of success generates a level of difficulty, which gives a DR to somebody to attack you. If you say I want to cast a ward against harm, that's going to reduce damage. And now, if you have, say, a ward reduces against harm and you block, that is going to be 2 things to the same roll, which is fine. You go the active thing first. The block reduces damage first, then that damage total is reduced by the ward again, and then armor at the end is applied. Make sense?
Yep.
Okay. So again, if you want to do a magical persuasion to somebody, you want to convince them to do something you want them to do, they will last for them the number of minutes equal to your levels of success. After which they will understand that they did something and they won't know why. Or maybe they'll figure out, if they're a witch, they'll be like, yeah, that was something not right. Who did that to me? And then, go from there. So Magic is not obvious. So if you want, you could hex somebody without them knowing. You don't have to point at them. You don't have to throw something at them. You can. It can absolutely have a visible effect. If you want to have it look like lightning, it's totally cool. It's not actual lightning, but it looks like lightning. It's hexing damage. So it makes it obvious. It makes it easy to block. A lot of witches do it because it's, flashy and showy. But if it's not, then you don't. If you can't see it, you can't affect it. You can't block it. Although, if you have danger sense and you have dodgy, you can get the hell out of the way quickly. So that works, right? There you go. So danger sense and dodgy, cool combo. All right. Any questions about any of that stuff before we get going?